welcome to the second day of AKLF 2019. This is the Oxford Junior Literary Festival, and this time we have come up with a bigger and better platform for our younger kids. So just to cut short, we'll begin the first event for the day, which is Off the Page. This is a dramatization of a famous story by Mr. Ranjit Lal, who is an author and environmentalist. Some of his notable works include The Crow Chronicles, The Life and Times of Altu Faltu, That Summer at Kaligar, The Bosman Adventures, Birds of Delhi, and The Caterpillar Who Went and Died, and other stories. Dramatizing this is the group The Creative Art. Dramatizing this story is The Creative Art. The founder is Ms. Ramjeet Kaur, internationally award-winning film and theatre personality. She is also the founder and director of this group, who is now going to showcase a very interesting dramatization of this story. So let's just keep our mobile silent and watch this beautiful endeavor. Thank you.
A wonderful good morning to everyone here, and a warm hello from the Creative Arts. A warm welcome to Ranjit ji here. He is here from all the way from Delhi. And we are very, very excited to have him here with us because we've spent last few days working on his words that he's given us. And our fellow coordinator has already introduced him to you. So I will straight away go to a question which is intriguing me a lot. Ranjit Lal ji was born in 1955 in Calcutta itself. So I would like to ask him about that. Do you remember that?
Well, I've come back here, the proverbial bad penny, like the bad penny. But I only spent about maybe first 2 or 3 years of my life here in Calcutta. Then we went off to Madras and went to Bombay. And from Bombay, then Madras, where I was from the age of 5 and 10, between 5 and 10. And that's where my sort of, you could say, appreciation for nature came about, because we had huge gardens. And there was no internet, there was no TV, nothing. So you spend the whole day out, roaming around, and you knew nothing. You didn't know anything about what was what or anything like that. But you did know that it was stupid to put your hand in a wasp's nest. You knew which ants would bite you and which would not. All those things you learned by experience. Anyway, then we went off to Bombay, which was quite a change because there were just flats everywhere. But Bombay had the beach, and Bombay had Borivali National Park. And Bombay, between the age of 10 and 25, I was in Bombay. And I used to bunk college to go off to Borivali National Park, which was just the opposite direction totally. But it didn't matter. You just got in the car and you just drove there. It was that's what we did. Then we came to Delhi, which was such a culture shock because all the people there were ready to eat you up. They were so belligerent, and anyway, I had a good. We live in Old Delhi, which is a slightly quieter than the rest of Delhi. And I live right next to a cemetery, a historic cemetery called the Nicholson Cemetery. Nicholson was the guy who in 1857 was summoned by the Brits to quell the mutiny. And he was the only general who did it. He was a ruthless man. Anyway, now he's buried in my backyard, I sort of say. But still, I have very quiet neighbors. So the cemetery that you read about here is based on that place.
I read that, in fact, one of your windows opens up to the cemetery.
Yeah, my bedroom overlooks it. So I keep saying I have quiet neighbors. Because you're all down and under, 6 foot under. It's still used in one corner. But I think they're running out of space, so they're doing double-decker and triple-decker graves. One on top of the other. But still, they're quiet neighbors.
I think what they need to learn from this, that cemetery is not only about ghosts or noises or sounds that can scare you. they can inspire you also, because all the sounds and the fears are imagination of our mind. But look at the huge body of work that Ranjit Lal ji has written, and it has been inspired by the surroundings where he is living. So next time, feel inspired wherever you are.
In fact, the cemetery is, where I got, it's a place where actually the dead look after the living, because there are monkeys there. We have about a troop of 40 or 80 monkeys there. There used to be. And in fact, that's where I got my second book from, The Life and Times of Altu Faltu, because these monkeys used to come into the house and, come into the veranda. They used to take the clothes off the line and then have a fashion parade. They used to jump on the cars and dent the roof or take the mirrors out and then look. And sort of, some used to say, very handsome chap. The other used to say, who's this guy? I want to kill him. So they used to do things like that. And, as I said, in Delhi, I didn't like the people too much at that time. So I said, I have to do a book, which I can take badla on both the people and the monkeys. So I wrote this book, The Life and Times of Altu Faltu. Altu Faltu is a little monkey who's a drug addict. He's addicted to cough syrups, which all the kids in the university do. And he's completely Altu Faltu, and he falls in love with Rani Beti, who is the daughter of this monkey chieftain's his daughter, who has been promised in marriage to someone else, Bade Battaviz. So now all these monkeys in the book were actually based on characters that I knew in Delhi and I didn't like very much. And the idea was that, even if these characters knew and recognized themselves in the book, they couldn't take me to court, because the moment they told the judge, Your Lordship, I am this monkey in the book, the Lordship would say, the case dismissed. You're saying you're a monkey, what are you complaining about? So I had great fun with it. So see, you can get from your own environment.
So we know which one to read next.
You don't have to travel very far or anything like that. You can get all your ideas from what's happening around you.
Lovely. So my question would be that, sorry, I kind of flipped my page. He's been awarded some really important awards. Twice he's received Crossword Award for children's writing. And another award, in fact, which our work also received, was Ladli Award for Gender Sensitization, Ladli National Award for Gender Sensitization. So my next question to you was that the book that we are doing right now, which the audience will watch, and we would love some questions afterwards on that, is, you talk a lot about bullying. You also talk about gender sensitization. Especially this book talks about how girls and boys are treated equal in the school, and in fact, girls get more importance. So would you tell us a little bit about the award, and why do you think you received the award?
Well, actually, the award was for another book. It was for a book called Faces in the Water.
In the water, yes.
Now, and that was based on female infanticide, the killing of baby girls at birth. And this, again, this story came about based on something I had read in the newspaper, that there was such a case in Haryana, and the family involved was rich and influential, and it was not one of those, it was not a poor family or backward family or anything like that. And they had done this, and so I thought that how can you write this as a story for children? It's such a grim subject. So I was thinking, and then I realized I have two sisters. And I suddenly said, okay, let's take them away. What would my life have been without them? So there would have been no fights. There would have been no, teasing each other. There would have been no fun. There would have been hardly, you would have been completely alone. So that's when the story sort of started off, and I wrote that story. It's based on this little boy who comes from a rich family. He goes to his ancestral farmhouse, and he's told by his mom that you are not to look down this particular well in the farm. You're not to go to this well. And he's alone. He's a lone kid. So, of course, the moment your mom tells you not to do something, you're going to do it. He goes there and he looks down the well, and he sees the faces of three girls looking up at him. And these three little girls are his three sisters who had been drowned in that well at birth. So they then, sort of, you could say, the ghosts or whatever you like, they show him the kind of life he would have had they been allowed to live. And so that's how that story sort of goes on. With Owlet, it's more about what happens in schools. I mean, I really wish there were schools like the ones that I've described here, where, I think maybe now schools are becoming more sort of equal and cautious about it. But I really think boys need to know how to cook. It gives you power if you know how to cook. If you don't know how to cook, you're finished. It happened to me, because I lived with my parents, and when my mom's birthday used to come around, I used to give her recipe books, because knowing she would cook and I would eat. Very nice arrangement. So then, unfortunately, my mom died, and my dad was ill. And I had to sack the cook because he was growing ganja in the garden. So he was growing weed in the garden, so he had to go. So ab kya kare? No cook. Father's demanding food, you also have to eat. Then all these recipe books that I had given by my mom were staring at me at the shelf saying, Bachu, ab bata, now what are you going to do? So I took out one book on Chinese recipes, and I went through it. I said, okay, you have to basically follow the instructions. And then I started cooking, and I learned. And now I enjoy it. So I said, okay, wow, I will never have to go hungry. And I can't even curse anybody if that food doesn't come out well, because you made it yourself. So that's how I learned, and that's when I found that, yeah, these sort of skills. In fact, schools should do more of this kind of teaching than your history, geography, and all that, which you forget, yeah. I don't remember hardly any of my maths or anything like that. Basics you do remember and all that, but these are skills that you will serve you through your life. Cooking, how to swim. I don't know how to swim. All those things that can really sort of be useful. How to cross the road without getting run over, yeah. I live near, there are a lot of schools around where I live. 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 3 o'clock at school, these kids are like sheep running all about the roads. And Delhi drivers are not exactly know how to drive, So it's, scary that, any day something can happen. But these are skills that that school should really teach, and teach both. Girls should know how to change a tire, a car tire or a motorcycle tire, something like that. Why not? What's wrong with it?
Thank you so much, Ranjitji. I think that's really wonderful. And at this note, I think let's begin the reading of the book that we have chosen to work on today. And we'll leave the stage to all of you. It belongs to you. And then after that, if we have a few minutes left, then we would love some questions. I mean, Ranjitji would love to answer any questions or things that you would like to share with him. So over to all of you.
Hi, I'm the narrator.
Hi, I'm the narrator as well.
Hi, I'm Jyotsna, better known as Patki, Tubby's close friend.
Hi, I'm Tubby, aka Ritesh, Patki's close friend.
Hi, I'm Smokey, Tubby's sister.
Hi, I'm Yolo, Tubby's sister.
Hi, I'm playing 4 roles. I'm playing Balram sir, the coach. I'm playing the principal. I'm playing the class teacher, Miss Ria Khan, and the mom.
Hi, I'm singing Smokey's songs.
Hi, I'm playing Ravi's character. Hi, I'm playing 2 roles. I'm the cheerleader and Patki as well. Hi, I'm playing the bully from the other school. Hi, I'm also playing the bully from the other school.
Hi, I'm a cheerleader as well as a cricketer.
Hi, I'm playing Balram sir, the cricket coach. Hi, I'm playing the cheerleader and sports captain Sheena.
Hi, I'm playing the cheerleader as well.
Hi, I'm playing cricket player and cheerleader.
Hi, I'm playing one of the cricketers on the team.
Mama, Tubby is catching flies again. Tell him.
My 4-year-old sister, Yolo, screamed as I casually reached out and closed my fist over the fly that had been buzzing irritatingly around the breakfast table and was about to settle on Yolo's cereal bowl.
Eeks.
She screeched, hitting my hand away and upsetting her bowl. She pushed her chair over and jumped away.
Tubby, stop it.
Ike's, YOLO, watch it.
Smokey squealed as the contents of the cereal bowl swirled towards her. Smokey was my twin sister, older by a couple of minutes, but thought she was 25 and not 16, and sang like Adele.
I can almost see it, that dream I'm dreaming, but there's a voice inside my head saying, you'll never reach it. Every step I'm taking, every move I make feels lost with no direction.
Madam Ji, enough.
Ma, Tubby's being gross again. Why did I have to be saddled with a twin like him?
She shook her head and drew her fingers through her hair.
He's just too disgusting. I want to throw up. Huh?
Well, we were twins, but we were different. I once heard Ma tell her friend Mrs. Nagpal on the phone,
Yes, they're like chalk and cheese. My Moina is so loving and trusting. She will make friends with a Rakshas even, and smiles and laughs all the time, and is so mature for her age. While Ritesh, poor fellow, goes around as if all the burdens of the world are on his shoulders. He only likes cricket and hates meeting people or making friends. Ritesh, please don't do that at the table.
Manav said plaintively.
How many times do I have to tell you not to catch flies while we are eating, beta? It's not nice. Now go and wash your hands.
I can't eat anything now.
Smokey declared. She glared at me.
All he's done in his entire pathetic life is catch flies or pretend to be Sachin Tendulkar or Virat Kohli. And look like he's just been given out LBW.
Yes.
Yolo agreed, nodding vigorously.
He plays cricket in the backyard veranda all the time, throwing the ball against the wall and batting and giving commentary at the same time.
I scowled.
Well, if there's no one in this godforsaken place to play with, what can I do? I have to practice.
Which was true. We had just shifted to New Delhi, and our house was separated from neighboring houses, which anyway appeared to be vacant. I played cricket by myself in the enclosed veranda and caught flies and mosquitoes to haunt my reflexes. The veranda was really perfect for batting practice.
Smokey spent her time singing for hours in the bathroom, pretending she was taking part in India's Got Talent or America's Got Talent or whatever.
Can't believe you're packing your bags, trying so hard not to cry. Had the best time and now it's the worst time, but we have to say goodbye. Don't say the word that's on your lips, don't look at me that way.
Madam Ji, good.
Ma turned to me.
Beti, get a cloth and mop up the table, darling. Beta, any response from the last school we applied to? What's it called? Jai something.
Jai Hind International, ma.
Smokey filled in quickly.
It's just across the cemetery. We could walk to it.
One of the major features of the school's mandate was that it apparently prided itself on treating girls and boys on the level, which meant girls had to play cricket and football and hockey and volleyball, etc., along with the boys. They had to wrestle and box and do all that karate type stuff and had to take up woodwork, metalwork, basic mechanical and electric engineering and electronics, etc. And get this, guys had to take mandatory courses in cooking, home maintenance and baby and childcare.
Wow.
Smokey giggled.
Just imagine you learn how to change a nappy before I do. Hey, then you can teach me. How about that?
Interview at the school, the principal said,
We've seen the testimonials you had sent us, and we're happy to say that both your children have passed our entrance and aptitude tests. Quite well, I may add.
They had been ridiculously easy. He relaxed back in his chair.
But as you know, this school has an enviable sporting and musical heritage, and it insists that new students show keen interest in any or both of these fields. Before we go, there's one thing more you must be aware of. In this school, we encourage and promote girls as much as, if not more than, we do boys in every field. We feel that girls must know how to tune a motorcycle's carburetor or assemble a gearbox as much as boys must know how to change a baby's diaper and cook a full meal in 45 minutes. In all our classes, the ratio of girls to boys is never less than 50-50. In most classes, there are more girls than boys.
First day at a new school is always a bit nerve-wracking. Miss Ria Khan said,
Class, I'd like you all to welcome Ritesh Damodar, who joins us this term. Jyotsna dear, it will be your responsibility to make him feel at home and show him the ropes. Ritesh, you go and sit beside Jyotsna there. She'll show you around.
The class tittered. I looked at the girl who had stood up. Oh, heck, it was the same small, funny, curly-haired firework wrestler I had nearly brained at the nets. I felt my face and ears go warm and knew I was turning pink. She was staring at me, a slow blush suffusing her cheeks, her eyes big, black and round.
Sure, ma'am, whatever.
Hey, isn't he that new guy?
Yeah, his name is Ritesh. Yeah.
Oh, let's go talk to him. Hi, Ritesh, right?
Yeah, hi.
Well, welcome to 10C.
Thank you.
Have you apologized to Patki yet?
Well, you almost killed her that day. If the ball would have hit her, you
Wait,
might
after
have
the
ended her
napkin, they
wrestling
have a
career.
paragraph.
Have you
Sure, I
apologized
need
yet?
to take any help anyway.
No, but it wasn't intentional. As games captain, I think you should really apologize to her.
Okay, I'll apologize to her when I see her. And show us your dimples. Every new kid here has to.
It's a rule, and yours are pretty cute.
Dimples.
Did someone mention my name? What's the matter? Oh, yeah. Ritesh here, he wanted to say something to you. Is that so?
Yeah, remember on the cricket field that day? I didn't see you or anything, so I didn't mean to hit you.
It's okay. Come on.
Well, sorry is not enough. You should take her on a treat.
Bring her flowers at least. Girls, he's already said sorry in a very sweet manner. And he's invited me to Mocha's coffee house after school. Coffee? Isn't that? Tell them.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Patki, he moves fast, doesn't he? Stop ragging him. If you do so, I'll complain to Miss Ria Khan. Which is being friendly, you moron. Friendly, I see.
Are we ragging you, Ritesh?
Are we? Are we? Stop flirting with him, especially Sheena. He's my responsibility. I'll take care of him, okay? Come on. And stay away from those witches. Whatever. Let's go, girls.
Hi.
Hi. Sit down. Let me know if you need any help, anytime, anywhere, any place.
Sure, thanks.
I decided to cut to the cemetery. I looked around to check if the coast was clear. I looked around, astonished. I looked ahead of me and gasped. A small, chunky figure, a girl wearing purple shorts and a black running vest, our school's colors, was sitting on one of the marble tombstones just beyond the bush, with her back to me, leaning against the marble angel at the head of the tombstone. It was the Tuffy wrestler Patki.
Was she waiting for someone? Probably some obnoxious wrestler or boxer boyfriend who seemed to have ditched her now.
She stood up, and went up to a huge neem tree right nearby and called softly.
Owlet, come on out. Sweetie, Owlet.
Clearly, she was nuts. And then suddenly, there appeared a face in the hollow. A round little brown face with spots like icing sugar on them and huge golden eyes. Even I knew it was an owl. An owlet, actually. She looked so much like a little owlet herself, it was unbelievable. What with those round eyes and her chunky body and a curly mop of hair?
Hi, how are you doing?
Good.
Great. You had cricket practice this morning?
Uh-huh.
Want to arm wrestle?
No, I mean, I don't arm wrestle with girls.
Do you like animals and birds? I love them.
Yeah, I guess they're cool.
What's your favorite animal and bird?
Never thought about it. I guess tigers, maybe, and eagles or something.
Do you have a dog at home? Or a cat? Or a rat? Or any pet?
No.
Me neither. But I have plenty of animal and bird friends.
Uh-huh.
I meet them after school every day. I could introduce them to you, but they are very shy. So you'll have to say very quiet.
Uh-huh. They are?
Yes, rather like you, actually.
What?
Yes, I've been talking to you all this time, and all you have said is uh-huh, uh-huh.
Sorry?
Tell you what, there's a cemetery just beyond the playing field's boundary wall, behind the trees. There's a hole in the wall and you can get through. I go there every evening to meet my friends. You can come if you like. It'll make up to trying to kill me.
I have nets after school.
Where do you live?
Actually, our house also overlooks the cemetery.
What? Unbelievable. Then we are practically neighbors. I can accompany you home every evening.
Isn't it dangerous to roam about in the cemetery in the evening?
Nah, nobody ever goes there. It's very old and overgrown. Everyone's scared of ghosts, I suppose.
And so, nearly every evening at the cemetery, Patki would make me sit a little closer to where she sat on the gravestone. At last, I found myself sitting virtually next to her.
Okay, I have got some chicken liver here. Now hold it in your arm and hold your arms out. I'll call Owlet. Owlet.
She called softly. Owlet emerged and stared at us out of her big golden eyes. Then the bird flew down and actually perched on my wrist, wrapping her talons around it. I remained stock still, hardly daring to breathe. Delicately, it picked up the piece of liver and flew off to a nearby branch. This time, Patki did hug me.
You did it. That was just awesome.
And all too soon, the first match of the series was upon us.
Come on, girls. Hi, I am so happy to see you all. Oh, who am I kidding? I'm not. But still, let's continue. I'm glad so many of you all showed up in such short notice. So let's not waste time. Please stand. I'll show you all your drill. So it is blades, buckets, candlesticks. Blades, buckets, candlesticks. Got it? Well, you'll practice while I figure out some more steps. Okay, people, let's practice. Blades, buckets, candlesticks. Please try it, please. Yes. Blades, buckets, candlesticks. Are you all done? Yes, ma'am. Come on. Well, show it to me. Blades, buckets, candlesticks. What? Once more. Come on. Blades, buckets, candlesticks. Horrible. We will try. She's doing everything now. Come on. Blades, buckets, candlesticks. Stop. It is pathetic. I hope you all are better next time. Oh, I told you, it's like blades, buckets, candlesticks.
Boys!
Yes, sir.
Where are you? Come here. See, you need to concentrate on the fielding
concentrate on the fitness. What? Fitness. Good. So, 50 laps of the ground. What?
50 laps.
Good. Come on.
Yes, sir. Sir, may I go drink water, sir?
वही रह जाते.
अरे ये वो नहीं है तब्बू तबलू तबला तबी the star batsman of the other team. Isn't he going to open tomorrow? हाँ चलो. ओए मोटू. What's up? What's up? बड़ा cute है तू तो. एकदम टेडी बेयर जैसा है. देख के तेरा गोद दबा दूं, है ना? अच्छा अब सुन. काम की बात पे आते हैं. ओके? So, अगर एक बॉल में आउट नहीं हुआ ना तो तुम देखना.
Wait, मैं जैसा खेलना.
हाँ क्या बोला? You will raise your voice in front of us. In front of us. In front of me. In front of him. How dare you? Who are you? बोल समझ में आया? बोल. छोड़ो. नहीं छोड़ेंगे. नहीं हुआ. तुम देख. समझा? मैं जा रहा हूँ. नहीं. क्या? कौन आ रहा है? बोल कौन आ रहा है? You think we care? You think we care at all? एक बॉल क्या? बोलो. We should listen. नहीं क्या सर हम लोग को क्या फर्क पड़ता है तुम्हारे सर क्या बोलते हैं? एक बॉल में आउट होना है. समझा कि नहीं? छोड़ो. नहीं छोड़ूंगा. क्या करेगा? समझ. कल मैच. What happened? Nothing happened. Sir, what happened to the day?
What happened? Hey, get up. What?
Nothing happened. Sir,
Oh, nothing happened. Where were you?
sir drinking water, sir.
Oh, so much time in drinking water. Wow. Go, 10 laps.
Yes, sir.
Just now.
What happened? Nothing happened.
Well, I hope the marks aren't showing anymore. No one should see them.
Tabby.
Oh, Patki, I'll see you later.
Huh?
Patki, we have the project now. I'll see you then.
कौन सा प्रोजेक्ट?
PT project, PT.
PT project. हाँ.
Yeah,
PT project.
Yeah.
What happened?
Nothing happened.
Something has happened.
Patki, nothing happened.
तो मुझे बताओ किसने मारा? मैं भी देख लूँगी.
Patki, कोई नहीं मारा है.
कोई तो मारा. चलो
अरे
अरे
अरे पट्टी ड्रामा क्यों करिए? नहीं. अरे
ड्रामा.
ठीक है. रुको. मैं सीढ़ी से गिर गया.
सीढ़ी से गिरने से.
अरे, ड्रामा. अरे,
मैं सबको देख लूँगी. चलो.
Match day. I checked my kit and picked up my faithful bat. This was a hugely important game. Not only because it was the decider, Balram sir had said that he had invited a couple of state selectors to watch it, and they had agreed to attend. Not only that, a major TV network had agreed to cover it and telecast it as part of its promoting sports program.
Ritesh, are you feeling okay? You're going to open, you know.
Yes, sir. I'm good.
Cool. Let's take these guys to the cleaners.
As always, I went through the cemetery. It was shorter and quicker and quieter. I looked at the dark foliage and then up at the bright sky to exercise my eyes. Something flickered and fluttered against the sky. I moved into a better position and looked up. Suddenly, it flapped and fluttered vigorously, struggling to get free, and my heart plummeted like a stone in a well. It was Owlet. Her talons had been entangled by kite manja, and she had been strung upside down. She was still again, and I saw her great golden eyes glare at me, terrified. I glanced at my watch. I was due to report at the ground in 10 minutes. In any case, there was no way was I crazy enough to risk climbing up after her, not with the crucial match just ahead. Already in the pre-match hustle and bustle, Owlet's plight was receding from my mind. I looked around the stadium. This was the decider. Owlet would have to make her own escape. There was really nothing I could do. And then that stupid little Owlet really began messing with my head.
I took guard, my mind in total turmoil. Patki would never want to see or talk to me again if she knew what I had done. Well, that could only be a good thing, couldn't it? And how would she know what had happened? She would surely ask me if I had seen or heard anything while I had walked through the cemetery that morning on my way to school. But I had a match to play, a make or break match. My whole career and future depended on it. My whole life depended on it. And I couldn't reg that for a stupid owlet. So Patki would get over it and begin the same thing again with another little owlet. But then it struck me that I had never seen Patki cry. Well, it would yet be another first, wouldn't it? Watching a wrestler cry and having a meltdown? That would be something to see.
Play!
The umpire commanded as Rajinder turned at the top of his bowling run. I patted my bat on the ground, hardly seeing him because everything was suddenly very blurry. I barely saw the ball, a red blur outside the off stump. In my head, something short-circuited. I let go this colossal, explosive, hiccuping sob. As I swung blindly, missed and ran. At the other end, Yadav rushed back to the bowler's end, his eyes huge with horror.
No, are you mad? Get back. What are you doing?
Get back. Back, Ritesh.
I didn't hear the hoots or jeers or the joyful whoops from the Gurgaon fellows. As I continued to run past the bowling end, past the dugout, into the pavilion and towards the dressing room, Balram sir rose as if to follow me.
Stomach!
I managed to half gasp, half sob, holding my tummy and vanishing into the empty dressing room. I slammed shut the door, locked it, and then sneaked out of the back exit, keeping my head down. I ran past the deserted wrestling ring and then the pool, thankful of the bushes that gave me cover. Then I went past the girls' changing room and ducked thankfully into the grove adjacent to it. I'd left absolute pandemonium in my wake, much of which was being telecast live. The guys in the dugout were jolted as if hit by a number 9 tremor on the Richter scale. Poor Srinivas tottered out to bat as Rajinder greeted him with,
आप लोगों का opening star batsman तो डर के भाग गया. Now you run.
In the cemetery, I paused to catch my breath, gulping back enormous sobs. I still had my bat and pads and gloves and helmet. I made for the trees where Owlet had been trapped and looked up. That stupid bird was still there and hadn't yet been torn to shreds by crows. But now she was very still. The uproar back at the field increased when Balram sir knocked on the dressing room door
Ritesh.
and eventually had it broken open and found no one there. He then rang home, but no one picked up, and both Ma and Pa's mobiles had been switched off. Nor could he get through to Smokey.
I got a huge shock when I finally reached the level at which Owlet's manja was, and like a fool, looked down. My stomach churned. And then I saw it shifting and waving slightly with the leaves. A strand of deadly ground glass-covered kite string trailing out from the tree outwards towards Owlet, but quite far out of reach. I took a deep breath and, closing my eyes, lay down along the thick branch. With my ankles gripped tightly around it, I began inching my way forward, my eyes fixed on the manja. Carefully, I pulled the manja towards me, hoping like hell it wouldn't snag on anything. At last, I reached out, and my fingers closed over her soft plumage. I got a sharp nip in response, and she dug her talons weakly into my wrist. I undid my shirt, buttons, and wriggled out of my shirt, sitting astride the branch now. Then I unraveled the manja around her legs and bunged my shirt over her. Her golden eyes blazed angrily, but she calmed down once they were covered.
You're such a freaking stupid bird, aren't you? Look at what you and Patki have gone and done. Screwed up everything, and everything good and proper. My whole life and cricketing career, probably.
They hadn't stopped the match, but there were explanations to be given.
Are you all right now? Come, sit down here.
Yes, sir. I'm fine. There was this owlet stuck up in a tree, caught by Manja.
Yes, yes, of course. Come on now, Ritesh.
I scowled as I took my position at long on. Damn them, I thought. If this is how they treated true greatness and genius, well, I didn't need their approval or cheers either. They were fickle and stupid.
Are you sure you still want to open? You had a very rough time out there.
Yes, sir. It won't matter when I go to bat. They'll behave the same way. I went out to bat to probably the most hostile and vicious reception any cricketer has ever received in the history of the game.
You're the best batsman in the world.
On the way home that evening, with a rather dazed Smokey and Yolo, to the cemetery, I sneaked a peek at the little thicket where Patki and I had sat with the birds. Patki hadn't been at the grounds at the end of the match for the presentation and crazy celebrations. My cheeks were still red and smarting from having been pinched and kissed by so many hysterical, infatuated girls.
We love you.
And my back had been solidly thumped by the boys.
Go, Ritesh. You are our hero.
Smile now, at least, you dope. If you don't, you won't smile in your entire life ever.
I slowly went up to Patki. She looked at me.
Hi, Tubby. Now sit down here. You dog, you rescued another little owlet this morning. She's at the vets, but she'll be fine too.
Have you ever been held in a vice and kissed by a solid, chunky girl wrestler whose arms are wrapped like steel whipcord around your neck? The most sensible thing to do is not to resist.
If you squirm or say one word, I'll crush your ribs to powder.
As you can see, I really had no choice. I closed my eyes and tentatively kissed my little wrestler girlfriend back.
Can I hear a good morning yes? Thank you. I'm just used to it, working with children. Okay. So thank you so much, Ranjit ji. I would like your point of view about how you saw your book coming alive.
Okay. I enjoyed it thoroughly, absolutely, and it's given me more ideas. And I think you guys enjoyed the bullying scenes the most. I could see that because you were doing your normal thing. You didn't have to act. So that's the best
So what
compliment
Ranjit
you
ji
can
is
get.
trying to say that all of us
You're
are
very
bullies
good.
inside us.
There's something hidden over there. So it was absolutely thoroughly enjoyable. And I'm so glad you've done it. And you did it very well, all of you, really.
So ideally, we would like some questions from the audience, and maybe Oishi or any volunteer from AKLF, is anyone here? So you could take the mic around, and if there are any questions that the audience would like to ask.
Any questions from the audience? Anyone?
Anything about his work or why he writes, what he writes, or anything
Yeah,
that you
what
all
you
want to
guys-
share? Yes. Yeah. Tanisha? You can.
Yeah.
Or why don't you use your
Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. So if you could just tell us what made you start writing?
Well, actually, I never wanted to be a writer, you know. I wanted to be an automobile engineer and designer. But I had major health issues. And the doctor said, you just forget about that and you get a desk job, sit behind a desk and do something like that. Now, I wasn't interested in banking or economics or anything like that. I had to do economics, unfortunately. But I was interested in writing. So I started off by writing articles in the newspapers. In fact, the very first article was published by The Statesman in Calcutta. And that was years and years and years ago. And then somebody said, why don't you write a book? This was maybe the 1990s or something like that. And I said, book, who's going to write a book? I mean, come on. But, you know, I was interested in a lot of other things. I was interested in birds, photography, cars, and stuff like that. And so I did, my first book was Crow Chronicles, which has all bird characters. It's again a social satire and a political satire, where all the characters are birds, because there are a lot of similarities between certain bird characters, you know, birds and people. And then once that got published, I was lucky that that got published. You know, I started off, when you start off writing a book, you have this huge, you know, your head becomes the size of a watermelon, because you're an author, you know, you're becoming an author. So it took me about 2 or 3 years to do 1/3 of the book. Then one day I said that either I finish it or I forget it. And I sat down and finished it in 3 months, the rest of the book. And I used to write in pencil at that time, and then put it on this Godrej typewriter, which was like driving a lorry, and editing it, and then send it off. And luckily it was taken by Penguin. Then came Altu Faltu, and then after that it's just been one after the other.
Yeah, that's quite inspirational for all of you, that you can start small and then go to bigger things.
So, how do you feel when somebody is reading a copy of your book?
Oh, the way you guys read it, I mean, you read it better than, you know, when I write, I think of the dialogue and all that. And when I'm thinking about that dialogue, I don't express it as well as you guys have expressed it you know, while reading out the dialogue. So,
how do you feel when somebody, meaning you see somebody randomly reading a copy of your book?
oh, that's a nice feeling. And what gives me a lot of sadistic pleasure is to stand behind that person and say, hey, you don't know how close to the author you are.
Sir, whether
Ma'am,
was
we
the
open.
Owlet any specific? Why did you choose an owlet as
Because
a bird?
actually, at one point of time, I had seen an owlet stranded like that. I think it managed to free itself, but it was entangled in Manja, in that cemetery itself. And that had been in my mind that I can use this in a story somewhere. And the question was how. Actually, it first was a short story, this whole thing. And then it did have the cricket part and all that, but it didn't have the thing between Patki and him to such an extent. And it was a short story. Then I expanded on that and got the book wrote the book. But see, again, it's all what you actually experience in your life. And you should never disregard that, no matter how it may seem trivial, may seem very small or whatever that, but you should never disregard that.
I think the Owlet creates a very emotional part of the whole thing, and it brings in the emotional bonding and you know, what people feel for each other, what we feel for birds and animals, and how it can become something very beautiful and poignant.
And have you seen the spotted owlet? It is a very cute bird, you know, and especially when they're outside their little holes, 2 or 3 of them together. And I love owls. I mean, I love owls basically. I mean, another thing that gave me this idea was that, you know, I live next to this park, also Kutsia Park, and we'd gone bird watching there January, May, and there were these barn owls at the outside of their sort of hole, and they were kissing each other. It was amazing to see. It was the sort of kiss that, you know, would have had a lot of political parties frothing at the mouth. And what was even more amusing was on the other side of that bowl, there were 3 baby owlets sitting one on top of each other, probably wondering what the hell are our parents up to early in the morning, first thing in the morning.
Lovely.
Hi, sir. So I would like to know, like nowadays kids, they hardly like to read. I mean, they're so like addicted to TV and, you know, a lot of other things like computer games and things like that. So any tips for children nowadays, especially 6, 7, 8, like how should they go about writing, you know? How should they become a writer at a very early age? Because I'm a teacher from St. James's, and I handle boys, junior school boys, and I feel they are not that imaginative that nowadays. So, any tips for them, sir?
I think the problem with imagination is because they are receiving so much on screen. You know, they're seeing that. Like, I mean, I keep asking kids, you know, how many of you guys have read Harry Potter?
Yes.
Number of arms, hands will go up. How many of you have seen the film Harry Potter films? Again, a whole lot of arms go up. Then I asked them, did you read the film? Did you read the book first or the film first? And the people who, okay, and then you saw the film. So what you had imagined of the characters when you had read the book must have been different to what you actually saw on the screen. Dumbledore would have been a different kind of a person or in your head as to what you actually saw on the screen. But if you had seen the film first, your impression of Dumbledore would have been imprinted on your head. And while reading the book, you would have just transferred that image to what you were reading. So basically, this problem with all your TV and your internet and all that, it kills the imagination. And you need imagination in order to write. So you'll have to tell them that please read, you just have to read, because there's a lot of exciting stuff that is going on. You know, people are writing very nice stuff nowadays. So you just have to, I mean, before writing, you need to read. I keep saying that, you know, you need to read maybe 1,000 times more than you write. Because only that, writing is like, you know, any cricket, any game. You can only get better and better at it the more and more you do. Do a little bit every day, and you'll get better and better at it. Words, look at words. Every word is like a piece of a jigsaw puzzle, which has a perfect place in a narrative. So, I mean, you know, how I learned was, my elder sister was a teacher. She's retired. But, you know, when we were young, school holidays used to come, May, summer holidays, you go to the library, come back with a heap of comics. She used to look at them and say, put them aside. This is your reading list for the summer. You will read all these books, and all of them, Charles Dickens, you know, Great Expectations, Pickwick Papers, nothing less than 500 pages. She says, you have a problem, you come to me. You don't understand a word, make a list of look at the dictionary, make a list of them, and you'll be all right. Yeah, it was difficult initially to sort of plow through, but then I was doing it on my own. I found I was enjoying it, and I liked it. Because, you know, you can immerse yourself so much in a book that no TV program or anything like that can. Here the problem is, again, with TV programs, every 20 minutes there's an ad, which completely derails you. But a book, you just get completely involved and immersed in, and you can take away a lot from the book.
Right. Thank you, sir.
I would like to add something here. I think we as elders, parents, teachers, and educationists need to play a very important role in this, because the moment we create an atmosphere where gadgets are less, we are spending more time with them, or they are spending time, which is my favorite line, doing nothing. That's where the imagination and creativity will grow, where they will look at the birds, look at the trees, just lie around. That's where a normal raw material of a human being is going to grow. Thank you.
We will take another question.
Being
from the
bored
audience.
is very important, actually.
Someone wanted to ask a question?
Wait, first.
Yeah, we'll have that first.
Good morning, sir. I like to write stories, but whenever I write, my teacher is not happy with that. So can you please give some points to write good stories?
Okay, now the first basic thing about most stories is that all the stories have a beginning, have a middle, and have an end. And there has to be a connection between all these three parts of the story. Because, you know, I judge a lot of stories written by children and all that, and I find what happens is that they start off, and then they go off all over the place, and by the time they finish, I mean, it has no connection with what happened right in the beginning of the story. The other thing, when you write stories, you have characters in your stories. Make them characters that you know. Make them about people or animals or whatever that you know. And please don't call them Jack and Jill and Charlotte and Emily, because we don't know any Jack and Jill and Charlotte and Emily. Use your own friends' names, or you find out Indian names. They're very nice. And write on something that you know about, or you have experienced, you know, your family or your friends, your school, something that you can relate to, because that will come out then more authentically than something completely foreign or anything like that. Now, I think when we were growing up, we all read a lot of Enid Blyton and people like that. And she used to go on and on about, it was a lovely sunny day. Here in Madras, it was blooming sunny 365 days of the year, blazing down, and you're wondering, what the hell is she gassing around for? And then you realize, later on you realize that in England, mein to dhoop aati nahi hai. So when it's a sunny day, it's, they celebrate. Now, it doesn't make sense for us. So write about things that you experience or then your stories will be good.
So you've heard what Ranjit sir said, and also, beta, when your teacher says something, it doesn't mean she doesn't like it. She's trying to guide you. And whenever she says something, you say, so ma'am, please tell me how should I do or how should I proceed? Ask her. That's what teachers are there for, to teach you, right? Okay. And all right, so one last question from Shreya.
Okay, so I recently read this horror story of yours, The School. Okay, so over there, why did you include a school instead of a cemetery?
Well, actually, again, that story came about because of something I'd read in the newspaper. There had actually been an accident involving a school bus, and a lot of school kids died. And I thought that, it's just so useless. Why have they died? What? Because that stupid driver didn't know how to drive or was trying to show off or something like that. So that's how that story sort of began. And I decided to use that, yes, what happens if there was a school in which all these kids would sort of find themselves?
Thank you.
That's how it started.
Do we have time for one question? Or this little boy wanted to
No,
ask?
she wanted to ask one for very
Okay.
Also, how did you get the name Patki?
Oh, it just came out of the top of my head. It's a nice name. So it's got a bit of a sound effect also.
So, what was your favorite book?
Now, that's been always a difficult question because with a writer, what tends to happen is the last book that he finishes, it tends to be a bit of a favorite book. So the last one I finished is called Rumble in the Jungle. And it is a love affair involving two baby rhinos. And the mother of the boy rhino does not approve of the little girl rhino who's running after her son. So and then of course there is an actual boy and a girl also involved, a prince and a little girl. So that is otherwise the favorite would be Faces in the Water was very good. Crow Chronicles, because it is the first book, is always a little special.
Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you so much for being a lovely audience, and thank you so much, Ranjit Lal ji. I think I'm truly inspired to go through, as many books written by you as I can, and really looking forward to reading your new one also. And our dear writer-director, Vaishali ma'am is also here. I was thinking that it would be lovely to dramatize any one of his books. That's what I was sharing with him. They are just so delightful. You have to read them. So thank you so much once again, and thank you, Ranjit ji, and lovely to have you here. Thank you, AKLF.
Thank you, Manjit ma'am and Ranjit sir, for the enriching information. Thank you, Creative Arts, for the captivating demonstration of the story Owlet Out. And can we have a round of applause for the entire team, Creative Arts. We'd like to thank all the distinguished invitees, all the school students, parents, and teachers. We'd like to thank our sponsors and partners without whose unprecedented support and cooperation this event wouldn't have been possible. And last but not the least, thank you everyone for being such a lovely audience.